Hello and welcome to today's 4Ps podcast. This episode was supposed to be aired next week. However, because of the demand and everybody wants to know the rest of the story, we are going to broadcast part 2 of Phillip James McDonald's second part of his story. Again, it is a compelling story. We'll be right back after this, and we will be finishing up our conversation with Phil. There's a lot more of Phil to come even after this podcast. Be right back. Hold on.
Do you have the next big thing? That world-changing whatchamacallit? Do you have a story to tell? You need a show-stopping web presence. You need the web spinners at Webinit. With big picture solutions, spinning together SEO, stellar web design, blogging, podcasts, and social media integrations, you'll find yourself developing your latest and greatest thing, idea, or telling that next chapter in your story. Look us up today at Webinit.com, and remember, you're not everywhere unless you're Webinit.
Hey, 4Ps audience. First of all, I want to thank you for listening to the podcast, The 4Ps of You. I thoroughly enjoy doing it, and I thoroughly enjoy the feedback I get from listeners. I hope you enjoy the stories and the guests that come on this program all the time. And if you do enjoy the guests and the stories that come on this program, you will absolutely enjoy my book, The 4Ps of You. The 4Ps of You are a collection of stories dealing with purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. These stories are there to guide you through your journey to see exactly what you want in life. The 4Ps of You is available on all forums. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Google Play. You can get it on Apple. You can get it anywhere you buy books. You can get it in paperback or you can get it in e-form. Please, that's the 4Ps of You. Get it. Would love to have you read it and continue to thank you for listening to the 4Ps podcast with Trunus Goggins. Welcome back to the 4Ps podcast. You know, the story last week that we were talking with Phillip regarding his life story and what he has gone through, I have gotten an overwhelming response from literally all over the world, from Spain, from Denmark, from the United States, from Australia, from Canada. A lot of individuals have either told me on social media or through other platforms how that story has impacted them. Now, I will say this about McDonald. One thing that was really strong throughout his interview last week was the fact that he went through pain, but he found a way to overcome that pain. And when he overcame that pain, he turned things that would literally destroy people in normal settings and in other settings. He actually took those and turned it into something positive, not only helping others, but helping himself as well. And even with, the death of his father, how he turned that into something where he then helped other individuals, stroke victims, and go through and help them, in various ways for treatment and raising money for the Stroke Association down in Australia. He has done very great things. Today is part 2 of his story. Again, his story is very compelling. And the thing is about that is his story, which would usually turn someone bitter, has actually turned this individual into a phenomenal individual, an individual that's giving, and he is definitely, like I said in my introduction, he's a hero, not only in Australia, but apparently from the response that I'm getting, like I said, throughout the world, he is a hero or becoming a hero and a favorite person throughout the world. We will be right back with part 2 of Phillip's story right after this.
Do you feel yourself battling self-doubt or feeling the weight of uncertainty? You're not alone. Many have those moments when the voice of doubt speaks louder than aspirations. Introducing Triumphant, true stories of inspiration for those navigating the challenges of life. These stories aren't just narratives, they're beacons of hope, guiding you through triumphs of your own. These stories of inspiration, empowerment, and success will be available in April of 2024.
Welcome back. This is the this is the first time, actually, I should say, that we have ever had a two-part series. And the reason for that is because Phillip McDonald is such a phenomenal individual. I'm going to say this right now, and I know I said this in the first series, or the first part of this series. He has become a very dear friend. I do. I look up to him. I love talking to him, and it's great talking to him and having him on here. And in order for us, we have to be very structured, because we can end up talking about everything here, and because we will talk about anything. As a matter of fact, before we even started, we started going off, and so I want to make sure we don't bore the audience, which his story is not boring at all with anything. But Phillip, welcome back to the program. How's it going in Australia today?
Mate, it's pretty good down here. It's not too cold this morning. It's middle of winter, 6:30 a.m. It's I think just after 4 o'clock in the afternoon or thereabouts where you are. But I'm well, and thanks for having me back, brother.
I'm glad you're back.
Good to be back.
Very glad you're back. So, Phillip, we were talking last week, and your father was an inspiration to you. The relationship you had with your mother kind of baffled me a little bit. And then we talked a little, and I was kind of lost, because a mother's love is special. And then you brought up something before we got on into the podcast. Matter of fact, a couple of days before we did this interview, and you said, you talked about how you came about, basically. And when I read it, I was stunned by what you revealed. Would love for you to share that, please.
Yeah, well, my parents met. It was a blind date. That's how they met. And not long after that, my mother fell pregnant, and I was result of a blind date. I wasn't planned, so I was an uncomfortable accident, and my mother's father had attempted to persuade my mother to abort me. And if it wasn't for my father, who was 23 at the time, she was 19, I wouldn't be here. And so the result of that was that my father ended up marrying my mother, so that abortion essentially wouldn't take place.
My goodness. You have siblings, correct?
I have a sister. I don't speak with her, Trinus, and I don't speak to my biological mother.
And your biological mother's still alive? Correct. Wow. So your father basically, and I'm going to say this because you really did take on, whatever the faults are of all parents. I have my faults. We all have our faults. But your role as a father today, Phillip, is mainly, and you protect your family. You talk very highly of your family. You love your family. It definitely comes from your father, doesn't it?
Look, 100%. Dad extended himself for other people, and essentially, I believe that's what love is. Love is extending yourself to a capacity that sometimes you don't even know you have yourself, for the betterment of others. And Dad exampled that for his whole 82 years. And it started, I found out, I was the result of that character trait of his being able to be born. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him extending himself for, an unknown child.
Yeah.
that his partner was carrying.
So your father, the bond that you and your father had was extremely special. The bond that you and your mother had, I know that you and your mother do not talk now, but when was that bond severely, and I don't want to ever say permanently, because she's still alive, but when was that bond like severely severed to the point to where it is today?
Look, for use of a better explanation, it was fractured at the best of times, and it permanently, permanently, my God. Look, I was 22 when I first got married. It was probably heading south then to a point of permanency, and look, I'm just guessing, maybe 15, 16 years now. It's been permanent. My mother would run me down to people all the time. She would tell people that I'm no good. She would tell me I'm no good. She'd tell me that I would never amount to anything, basically. She would set me up to be living proof of what she would tell people I was like, because, I wasn't hip to the sort of games that she would play, and basically set a trap for me that I would react in front of other people, and so she was able to go, I told you, that's just what he's like, see? And so other people would see me at my very worst, because I'd take the bait and behave the way she in the light that she wanted people to see me in. And it's only when I grew older that I realised, she didn't want me around, and it was the point where my mother's sisters pleaded with my mother to allow her to allow me to be raised by them. Such was their caution of or cautiousness of having to raise me, that they didn't have confidence, and she's the eldest of four sisters. They didn't have confidence in her raising me, and basically for my protection, and to get me away from harm, because Dad was just at work the whole time, and whatever was going on, whatever he knew was going on in their relationship, after work he'd go to the pub, and then he'd come home, and he'd had a few beers, and if she said that I'd done something, I'd cop a hiding off Dad, and so she'd set me up again there, and he'd react to it, and she was a great manipulator, and I just don't want to be part of that. She very rarely has anything to do with my three children or our three grandchildren, and that says it all. But she has a close relationship with my sister that I have nothing to do with either.
Wow. So the other question I want to ask you, so you going back to the first interview, in the first interview you talked about how your mother had an affair with your dad's former best friend, and
he was his business partner as well.
And did they stay together after it was revealed, or? No.
That lasted a very short time. My father found where they were. An incident developed, and this fella almost lost his eye in the fight between himself and my father. My mother came back into the relationship after that, and I think Dad was aware of not wanting to leave my mother for fear of what would happen to my sister and myself. So you think of the capacity of a man to stay in a relationship that was no good because he cared so much, about the welfare of his two children. And that says something about him. And so, just once again, exempling that, capacity to extend himself for others.
So did they stay together until your father passed away, or did they
No, not at all. They, it would have been about 34 years before Dad passed away. Dad passed away at 82, just over 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Dad remarried. He met a wonderful lady called Pat, Patricia, that I call Mum. My stepmother, she's just an amazing lady, and I always remember Dad saying about Pat, she's still alive, and he said Pat is a real person, and she is. We love her to pieces, and she's a grandmother to the children that my biological mother is not. And I always remember my biological mother saying, "Look, I'm just not a maternal person." And I went, wow, really?
Oh, shit.
But she had a great relationship with my sister. How do you work that out? And she's not a maternal person. That's how she somehow justifies her behaviour.
It's not justifiable. Your father saved your life at birth, and your father saved your life now. Even at your age, your father definitely saved your life. And the thing is with Pat, your dad, through all of the misery that he went through, because I'm going to tell you, I've been through some times, you know what I mean? And some miserable times, but it's nice to have someone, especially towards the last half of your life, and that you deserve, that you love, and that you're happy. And look, that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, my word. And I've got less years ahead of me than I've got behind me. So it really does, stimulate how you think, how you perceive, how you approach things. And look, we're always growing. And, I'm a much different person that I was when I first got married at 22. At 22, you're still developing. I think still developing your personality, your character to who you're going to be for the rest of your life, up until your 30s. So, we changed. My former wife and myself, I probably changed more than what she did. She's a wonderful person, and, a fantastic mother and grandmother, to, our three children and our grandchildren. But, I was the fuck up, and I say that, quite unequivocally. It was me that, needed to change in order for things in my life change, Trinus.
Now, you were 22 when you got married the first time.
Yep.
And now you said that, and I was going to ask you a question. You admitted that you weren't the husband that you should have been or could have been, and you've evolved. And now there's obviously some type of admiration and friendship between you and your ex-wife, or some kind of some type of solid relationship, I should say, between the two of you. How much do you think, and now you're reflecting back, you're 22, this is 40 years later, you're looking back at your life, how much of your childhood, and again, I'm the type of person where I don't blame, my parents for the decisions I make when I'm an adult, but on the same note, there is an influence to the decisions you make when you're an adult. And how much do you think that influenced you with your first marriage?
Look, I think it's got everything to do with it. I struggled for for so long, Trinus, with identity. I've always tried to emulate my father and his successes and all that type of thing, instead of just trying to find out who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And in later years, I did some searching, and I went and saw a therapist, and we did some work. And at the end of that, what was revealed, and this guy was a psychotherapist, he's become a mate of mine, and what was revealed is, yes, I am my father's son, and of course there's going to be inherent traits there, but I found out who I am as well. I'm a strong individual, with very much my own mind. I can have a bugger off attitude to a lot of people in a lot of different situations, but I'm very much my own man. I believe that I can achieve anything I put my mind to. My confidence is through the roof these days. It's cockiness. I think cockiness. The difference between cockiness and confidence is cockiness. You think through bravado. Oh yeah, I can do that. Confidence is the fact that you can do something. And I struggled for so long, wallowing, in my own cloud. My head was in a cloud. And my former wife, this is a great opportunity for me to apologise to her publicly, by doing this podcast with you, and to everyone else that watches this podcast that I've ever affected emotionally or physically. It's my opportunity to apologise to them if I've ever made them feel uneasy, or I've been a stumbling block in their own life, or caused misfortune or whatever to them. So I apologise for the way I was then, and I couldn't navigate myself, let alone navigate my relationship with anyone else.
Right. I that is the first time this ever happened on the podcast. It is humbling. You're a humble man, and you are, like I said, that is it's amazing. And again, like I said, that is the act of humility, for you to do such a public act in that way. Again, the person you were at 22 is not the person you are now, and that is for sure. You are now married again, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
All right. And obviously you've taken the lessons from your previous marriage, and lessons learned, you've applied them to your marriage today. Obviously it's strong. You guys talk highly of her. How does she fit in, or how does she accept and tolerate the dichotomy of your family?
Annika, we've been married just on 10 years, together about 15, 16 years, all up. She's an amazing person. She walked away from an abusive marriage. She was married when she was 16, and Annika's background, she's Macedonian. She came to Australia when she was 2, and her parents didn't speak English when they arrived in Australia, and they're the epitome, of hard-working people. And Annika started selling fabric. She's in fashion, and she's been in fashion her whole life. She turns 60 next January, and she started selling fabric, as I said, in the fashion industry when she was 16 years of age. She's maintained her role in fashion since, and still employed in the industry. And so, that is just a small example of Annika's character, which is one of consistency, and she applies that to every area of life. In her commitment to other people, the way she's with our grandchildren, with our kids, everything. My ex-wife, she is quite friendly. They're quite friendly toward each other when we see each other at family get-togethers and whatnot. Annika's staunch. There's just this solidness about her, and that was there from the first moment we met, and we talked all night till about 2:00 in the morning. We just talked and laughed, and I just myself, wow, this is someone of substance, and that has continued right through to today. And she, there's nothing false about Annika at all. It's just 100% genuine. It is what you get. And it's not a case of like, oh, where have you been all my life? It's a case of I met her because I was ready to meet someone like.
It's funny how sometimes that soulmate, so to speak, is out there. You just have to get prepared, because that person will not be your soulmate for long if you're not prepared.
She wouldn't have spent 2 seconds talking, to my former self.
I completely believe that. Now, life, even though you've gone through quite a bit, you had a great career as a builder. You had a career as a boxer. You've helped a lot of people. You continue to help people through the sport of boxing, young and old. And you hold a couple of world records, or a few world records. Three of them. Tell us about the first world record that you have.
The first world record was it was called the Les Galvin Memorial, and I decided to achieve that and raise money for mental health and awareness for mental health after my best mate, that was best man at my first wedding, took his own life. And so Les had battled his demons, and they won. His demons won. And I got a missed call from my father. I was away on a bike trip, riding these 3 peaks in the southern states of Australia. Down here, there's 3 peaks that they snow on each year, and so they're pretty steep. So we rode those, and as we'd finished our tour, I've got not one but 15 missed calls from my father, and I thought, oh, he must be with the grandchildren. They must be pocket dialing me or something, because Dad would ring once, and if he can't get on to me, he'd leave it, and he'd know that I'd call him back when I got to my phone. I rang him, and he said to me, Les has passed away. And I said, what? And then he told me a bit more, and I've just gone, wow. And I was numb for days. Anyway, so I'd already been training to do what became my second world record, but COVID hit, and we couldn't get the Guinness, world record judges out here. So because I'd been training on the bag, like doing marathon training sessions on the bag, like 150 rounds, so that's 10 hours.
Yeah.
On the heavy bag, 10 hours. I said to my trainer, Ian Schaefer, who's my best mate, he's a former world champion himself. I said, well, why don't we do an event on the bag, and I can call it the Les Galvin Memorial. We can raise money and awareness for mental health. He said, that's a great idea. So what are you thinking, Phil? a few hours? I said, no. And he said, well, what, 150 rounds? Because that's what the second world record was, 150 rounds of boxing. I said, no, I'm thinking 24 hours. He said, what? What, 24 hours and have a minute break every 3 minutes? I said, no, 24 hours non-stop. He said, what, no toilet break? No, nothing. I said, nothing. I said, I want to go 24 hours non-stop. He said, he affectionately calls me Filthy. And he said, Filthy, he said, mate, you're crazy. And I said, well, that's one crazy person speaking to another. So so we, in January, the end of January 2021, we set out at it was 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning. And I remember Dad walked through into this factory that we did near Mascot Airport at Sydney. And a mate of ours owned the factory. And Dad walked through the roller door, and Anik was there before she went off to work to come back later in that afternoon. And Dad said to me, he said, well, good luck, son. He said, I'll give Anik a ring tomorrow morning before Paddy and I come down to see how you're going. And I thought to myself, what? You're going to call Anika tomorrow morning just to make sure I'm still going so you don't waste a car trip down here? And I thought, you bugger. And that spurred me on. And then later I thought about it, and I thought, he knew how to get to me, right? I spited him, right? I spited him, right? And I thought, bugger you don't think I can keep going? I said, I'll show you, right? So he walked through the doors just as the sun was coming up the next morning, and I just had this memory I've got as all my family walked through the roller door of this factory with the sun shining behind them, and then I picked up the pace. And it was live streamed, and my cousin, Adam McDonald, he said, I'll donate another $1,000 if you can go flat out for 3 minutes in the last 3 minutes of 24 hours. So Anika was reading off the comments to the live stream, messages of support from people and, people pledging donations as I was going. So I had the bag on a 45-degree tilt, hitting it as hard as I could in the last 3 minutes of that 24 hours. The energy that I felt as I saw my family walk through those doors, I just can't put that into words, Trinus. Mm-hmm. And that proved to be the last time I ever saw Dad conscious. He suffered a stroke a week after that, and 8 weeks after that, he was no longer with us.
But you know what? He was cheering you on the whole time.
Yeah.
Wow. And he knew how to push your buttons, huh?
Oh man. And that says so much about his ability to know me intimately, to know my mind, and be able to lift me, gave me this. And his mother was the same. My grandmother, his mum, Ethel, little Ethel, he was this Irish redhead. And it's funny because all our 3 grandchildren, guess what? They're all redheads.
They're all redheads, huh? The funny thing is we were talking last time about how our fathers were very much the same. And you said your grandmother's name was Ethel. Ethel is a very unique name. And my great-grandmother's name is Ethel.
What? Beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and she was short. She was not redhead, and she was definitely not Irish, but she was Native American, and she was black, but she was and it's funny, Ethel. That is unbelievable. Wow. That's another similarity. for the instance of time, I am going to share the other two world records that he has that you have after this episode's over. I also want to share. I know that you are you still give to many foundations. You still donate to many foundations. Those links will also be in the podcast notes. I want to make sure that people donate. I want people from around the world. We're going to try to break another record. We would like to flood Australia with some American money, some Canadian money, some Great British money, Great Britain money. I have people in Russia listening. I have people in Algeria listening. All over the world, donate to this to the causes that we are going to have in the podcast notes. One last thing, Phillip. You have, like I said, you are a dear friend of mine. And this is not the last time you will hear from Phillip, either on this podcast or something else that is going to happen with Phillip. We are talking about it. We're going to keep it a secret right now. But I would like for you, and I mean instantly, and I feel like, I want to say that I try to inspire people. I try to motivate people. But one thing that I must say is that you, Phillip, motivate me. You motivate me a great deal. And you motivate me because of what you went through and then your reaction to it, because what you do. There's a lot of people in your community, in the country of Australia, that benefit from the things you do and the heart that you have. What would you say to someone who is just, and it doesn't have to be the type of life that you had, but they are going through a major struggle? What would you say to lift them up?
Well, firstly, you've got to get a good friend, like I have in Ian Schaefer. Secondly, don't look too far ahead. Just get through the next hour, and they run into several hours, and then you get through the next day. And I think the worst thing people can do is put too much pressure on themselves. So for me, when things have been pretty dark for me, just get through each day. And, as the old saying is, one step at a time. And that's all you can do. Just put one foot after the other and just keep walking, and just find something to be grateful for. I wake up every morning and put my arms around my wife and kiss her on the forehead. And I'm so grateful to see her every morning. It's grateful that I get to open my eyes. There's got to be something, doesn't matter how bad things get for you, there's got to be something that you attach, some sort of feeling to, that something that means something to you. And for me, it's the sound of my mate's voice. When I hear him, it's like, I've got joy whenever you and I speak, or we just even message back each other without seeing each other, and hearing each other like we are now. We might just message each other. Attach yourself to things that bring you joy. I don't care if it's something as silly, sounds crazy, like just a bowl of ice cream. If that does it for you and that breaks, things up, dish yourself up a bowl of ice cream. Go for a walk, get some sun on your face, go for coffee with a friend. Look, at the end of the day, money means nothing. You can't put a value on, your own happiness, your own peace of mind, your own well-being, your mental health. And for me, just to be at peace is something that, I can't put a figure on that. It's just absolute gold. You can't buy that. You can't buy peace. And I've got peace.
Absolutely. Phillip McDonald, great individual, a dear friend. He's a brother of mine. He really is. He is absolutely a part of what he says, part of the crew. He's definitely a part of my crew. I'm glad to be a part of his. We will be right back right after this. Hello, Four Piece family. You know, I would love to meet you all in person. I know I have a growing audience. I have a big audience. They're all over the world. And I am traveling around signing my book, The Four P's of You. And in September, I will be at the Johnson City, Tennessee, Barnes & Noble. And that is going to be September 14th. Also, I will be in Toronto September 28th and 29th at the Word on the Street Book Festival. I am honored to have been invited to that festival at September 28th and 29th on the streets of Toronto. And I'm going to tell you, it is early fall. You cannot beat the weather in that area. It is going to be fantastic. I'll be out there signing books, and I know I'll be eating some delicious food. Hopefully my booth is close to my favorite restaurant in the whole entire world. I don't know if I can say it right now, but it has to do with a lot of chicken and some really, really good sauce. And also, I will be doing some unofficial signings in Barnes & Nobles throughout the country. I will be telling everybody when I'll show up. I know that here in a couple days on August the 16th, that's 2 days from today, I will be in Cincinnati at Westchester Barnes & Noble signing some books. I hope to see you there. Please attend Barnes & Noble. Go. They are really, really helping me and sponsoring me through this new author journey. I really do appreciate their support, all of Barnes & Noble. And also make sure, again, Word on the Street in Toronto. This schedule's changing all the time, so I'll be updating those schedules. So please stay tuned to the podcast, but also stay tuned to this segment. Again, where on earth is Trueness Goggins? Coming up at another podcast episode near you. Again, the 14th, I will be at the Barnes & Noble in Johnson, Tennessee, and also on the 28th and 29th, I will be in Toronto at the Word on the Street Book Festival. Totally looking forward to that. It is the largest book festival in all of Canada. Talk to you soon. Welcome back to the Four Piece Podcast, our final segment. Again, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Phillip. He is just, first of all, I mean, I've never met someone that like this individual. He's a great individual. He's always there. He always wants to help others. He's always there to be there for others. His family is outstanding. All of them. He has a daughter that I will say I have fantastic daughters, and he has a fantastic daughter as well. Always by his side. And just, I mean, the whole family, the whole dynamic is just great. And he created that. You know, his mom said that he was a mistake. And he never accepted that. The reason why he didn't accept that is because his father did not accept that. And he had a level of love. He was angry. And we heard that from the first episode. He was angry because of the things that happened to him. But he knew the whole time that he had someone there to love him. And, you know, we all have people in our lives that may think we're not supposed to be here. I know my brother and I, we have 3, maybe possibly 4 people in our own family that think we are mistakes and treat us as such, even to this day. And, you know, when I was younger, it kind of hurt me. But as I got older, I realized, you know what? Hey, you know, if you don't want me around, then screw it. I don't want you around either. And I will treat you the way you treat me. But and my brother is even more extreme than I am in that case. And that's just the way it is. You're going to have people who are going to think that you are a mistake, that you're not supposed to be there. There are people probably at work that think you do not deserve the position that you have. There are people that are in your circle, your own friends and family, that think that you do not deserve the things that you have, the things that you do. You don't deserve that man or that woman. You don't deserve the house that you have. You don't deserve the car that you have. You will never get to that next level. And all I got to say about those people that are thinking that you are a mistake and you are not deserving of whatever position or whatever place that you're in, all I have to say is what you need to say is screw them. That's it. And if I could use another word, I could use it, but I did use the thesaurus today, and I say screw them, because there's no point in even wasting your time about the way they think about you. If they think that you're a mistake, prove them wrong. And you know what? I'm wrong to even say that. Don't even prove them wrong. Again, screw them. Who cares? If they think that you're a mistake and you don't exist, treat them as they don't exist as well. If you don't think I exist or I'm not supposed to exist, then I'm going to treat you the same way. And eventually what happens is, guess what? You're over it. And that's exactly what Phillip did. Phillip, I don't think that he treated them as they didn't exist. As you know, the relationship between he and his mother is extremely strained, and they do not speak. So maybe he is. I don't know. But I do know that he has moved on, and he has stopped any cycle like that, because he could have been the same type of parent his mother was. But no, he loves his children. He loves his grandchildren, and he is so proud of them. Don't think that you're a mistake at all, because you're not. You're here. You are here to serve a purpose. That's why I wrote the book. I wouldn't have spent my time writing this book about purpose if I didn't believe that every single person on this planet has a purpose. Some, and we all know this, the way the world is, some people screw up that purpose, and they never want to achieve that purpose, and they just give up on that purpose, and they corrupt their purpose and all that other stuff. But for the most part, if you think about life in a positive way and you strive to serve that purpose in a positive way, you ultimately make this world better. Like I said, usually I do one show a week, but this week, because you really wanted this second segment earlier than you're supposed to get it, I am going to go ahead and I did an early release and played it. I remember my dad at the skating rink, he used to have a sign right by the DJ booth that said no request, right? And he used to tell me when I used to be in the DJ booth playing records, somebody'd come up, and if a pretty girl came up and asked for a record, it would be hard pressed for me not to do it. But it was no request. That was the line back at Skateland back on 33 East Ferry Street in Buffalo, New York. But I will say this right now, sometimes when, you have literally people on 6 different continents asking for part 2 as quickly as possible, you kind of do it. And I'll tell you, the only thing better than the host that I or the guest, the host is horrible. I mean, the host of this show is just, gosh, I can't stand them. But the guests on this show, they're awesome. They're phenomenal. And the only thing better than the guests on the show is the audience. And I will do what the audience says, especially when they're in so many different countries and they're saying, hey, please do this. I want to make sure that they are getting this. Now, if you want anything else on Phillip, his social media presence is growing. And also, like I said, he does have a book that will be coming out in the spring of 2025 in the United States. It'll be the fall of 2025, same time. I just wanted to be funny, in Australia. Make sure that if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the fall, which is going to be April, May, June, and in the Northern Hemisphere, it is the spring, which is March, April, May. Well, sort of March. Well, it's still March. It's still kind of still in the what's his name? So have a fantastic week. I shouldn't say have a fantastic week. Have a fantastic couple of days. When we come back, you will hear from Nate Turner. Yes, I said Nate Turner, not that Nate Turner. All right, that Nate Turner has been gone a long time, but this Nate Turner is a revolutionary as well. Be back. I will talk to you. That will download on Thursday of this week. Fantastic individual and a great thinker. We'll be back next week, or Sorry, we'll be back on Thursday. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.